Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another round of the ArcLight League. We are, believe, in week number 5. Flake alongside Elaine Hammondtree. Elaine, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you today?
I am well. I am well. It's a Phi mirror today, Michael Jasker versus Nathan Crawford. This is a little bit interesting for me. There's Michael Jasker, who lives like 20 minutes away from me. And then there's Nathan Crawford, somebody whom I have been very vocal as being one of my all-time favorite players. So, interesting. Lots of friction here, Elaine. Do you have any initial thoughts on this particular matchup?
Well, it's a five mirror, so I think it'll probably be a quick game. I think that's basically a race. I'll be looking to see who gets an Art of War turn off first. I think that's going to be a key point here, but yeah, we'll see how it goes.
We shall see how it goes as we jump into the match right now. It is Michael Jasker of Canada. Easily an advantage right there, just being Canadian, versus Nathan Crawford, with the Briar in the background, as that's a hero that he has really cut his teeth on over the time there. But ultimately here, that's not the case, Elaine. It is 5 versus 5, and I think that you're spot on. This is going to be a quick matchup, all things considered. So this might be, like you said, whoever can find those big, powerful turns first.
Yeah, so we're starting off with a Warmonger's Diplomacy from Nathan. That's a really interesting start here. I think that's good. I'm gonna assume.
It might be just a situation, I think, where you're just trying to filter your hand. I don't think that Warmonger's Diplomacy is really going to see a lot of implication into this. I think it's just another blue 3, blue 0 cost that you can just toss away if necessary. So filtering in the hand there, I think, is perfectly fine. But a Ronin Renegade to open things up, I think, is just the right brand for Fi. A 3 go again.
Yep, three go again, zero cost. It's also a Draconic chain link, which is good, followed by a Rising Resentment.
Yeah, opening up with back-to-back 3 go agains, and it looks like Nathan is basically content here to just continue to take some damage. And Elaine, I think that in these Fi matchups, you got to suspect that unless there's something glaring, both players are going to be happy to sort of dial the clock back to those Briar days of Lightning Briar where nobody blocks until you have to. And I think that might be the order of business right here. The Rising Resentment does have an on-hit effect here.
Yep. Rising Resentment, you can banish a card. I don't think he banished a card though. I didn't see a banish from that.
No
Three go
banishments.
again.
Yeah, continue onward. 3 go again. Flavor of the day. Searing Ember Blade. Getting that go again because of the Draconic Chain Links that you mentioned earlier here. And at a certain point, you're going to have to start respecting these. Elaine, are there any attacks or particular situations you'd think that a Fi player in this particular mirror is going to say, all right, you got a card from me here. You're going to buy one out of my hand?
I think that Snatch is a good card to block. Your important on hits in this deck are definitely Snatch, draw a card. Draw a card is obviously one of the best things you can do in this game. Other on hits are Rising Resentment and the one Mounting Anger, where you can banish and give a card +1.
So one card peeled away from Nathan Crawford's hand, still a Snatch in hand. You've got a Blaze Headlong to be played with, and an Arsenal. So a 4-card hand on the receiving end here for Michael Jasker, starting with just a Snatch. And I would imagine here a lot of the issue is going to be because of the natural go again that maybe Nathan Crawford didn't have. Do you think that this is a Snapdragon turn here?
Yeah, it looked like Nathan had two nasty surprises in hand, which those are just two blue cards, three blocks, no go again on it. So I can see why he blocked with that here. Snatch, I'm not sure that we'll see a Snapdragon's activation on this turn. Oh, I was wrong.
Well, there it goes, and I think that you have to sort of pressure no matter what in this case. Like you mentioned, I think these games going so short that opportunity to use Snapdragons, it might be one of those situations. Nobody wants to end the game with equipment still on the board. You want to lean on it, and it looks like really early on here, Nathan Crawford is opting to buy some equipment, buy some cards, but also continue the attack pattern here as what seemed like a rather innocuous turn, Elaine, turned into actual equalization here on the damage. Plus, you get the Phoenix Flame to go ahead and maybe put you ahead, as that's exactly what Nathan Crawford does, and it ends it with a Lava Burst.
That is the perfect card to close out a chain link like this. I think this he had a really efficient turn. And like you said, getting some block off of Michael's Flame Scale Furnace is good. I think in the fly matchup, you're kind of using that Flame Scale Furnace block value a lot more than you would in other games, because these games don't usually go long enough to get the full value off of the ability.
That is Mounting Anger. Another go again. Draconic Chain Link to open things up. It looks like that, again, Nathan Crawford doesn't want to be left with change in his pocket at the end of the turn here. Obviously, these are very much a flurry of blows going back and forth here. But if Nathan can take it on the chin, but if that turn ends with an extra card that really does nothing, then that's health value lost that could have perhaps just been thrown in front of this. Now, both players do have a certain amount of equipment they can lean on, be it the Tiger Stripe Shuko, the Furnace. That's going to get some utilization in order to block some of those breakpoints. But like you mentioned earlier, I think Snatch is probably going to be one of the bigger threats in order to sort of peel off some of that armor. But at the same time, Elaine, I think that when you're suspecting that Salt the Wound turn, where every single on-hit matters, you're probably going to be starting to see some of the equipment come out to maybe cover up some breakpoints, or even just maybe eat a 1 go again, a 2 go again, maybe one of those Phoenix Flames or such, just to sort of quell and subdue the reach that something like Salt the Wound can have. All right, locked up here, a Searing Ember Blade is the order of business to follow up with a Blaze Headlong. You can see just how frequent and incessant just this onslaught of attacks can be from a Phi player.
Yes, especially with few cards in hand, you could just keep kind of going with Phi. You could also get the Flame Scale Furnace go again. I wonder if there's anything coming out of that arsenal. I don't remember what that arsenal card is. Do you?
For Michael Jasker, I'm not entirely sure what the arsenal ended up being, but you know that it's going to be something probably cheap, but probably devastating. If you're a Phi player, I mean, you don't need resources. That's all bonus. But ultimately, here a 4 go again is the order of business, and Nathan Crawford going to be tossing in a Mounting Anger to sort of meet this halfway. It's only a 2 block. But that's sometimes good enough to get you closer to the end game, as Michael Jasker continuing onward here with a 1 go again. And these Phoenix Flames, Elaine, kind of like these quasi-Kadachis. They're so annoying, but at a certain degree, the amount of the heavy lifting that they do over the course of a game could be immense.
Yeah, they put in a lot of value. I mean, I'm a warrior player, so I play Valiant Dynamos. I know how much like that 1 life adds up over the course of a game. It's the same thing, just on the opposite end with the Phoenix Flames.
Rising Resentment, a Soulbait Strike gonna meet that halfway. Nothing doing. It looks like this might be a situation where you got that Lava Burst lined up in the arsenal there for Nathan Crawford. Draws another one. But you did find I believe there's a Brand with Cinderclaw in there, another Blaze Headlong. So there's plenty of opportunity here for another massive turn from Nathan Crawford. And as you can see, Elaine, it looks like Nathan Crawford is just clicking that pass priority button as fast as possible to just say, let me play this hand. This hand looks great.
Yeah, you can see it on his face too, right? He's just kind of nodding along like, yep, I'll take the damage. Keep it coming.
It's kind of like he's just plowing through the awful trailers of a movie that he was like, you line up to watch Star Wars, right? Episode 9. You've been there and waiting to see the movie. You cannot wait. The ticket says 7 p.m., but it's 7:40 p.m. and you're on your 19th trailer for the movie and you're just like get to me. Get to the part. And then the problem is, does Nathan leave the theater satisfied with the hand he played, or is he going to leave it like I left The Rise of Skywalker, absolutely disgusted and just clinging to reality? It's a
I
question,
don't.
Elaine. These are legitimate questions that we must ask.
I'm sorry you had such a bad experience with the Rise of Skywalker. We've got a lava burst here. It looks like Nathan is actually taking some time to think about this block, even though he knows he can send back another one on his own turn.
Well, the card in Arsenal is the question here. I think that the significance might be, okay, I take the 6. Is this a Snapdragon into something like a Snatch coming out of Arsenal, which would probably be the most devastating sort of follow-up here, the 4, the on-hit, all this stuff. But I think that Nathan might be thinking, is it worth it to maybe preserve some life if I go ham here and Michael just eats everything? Does he have a potential kill shot by the end of this? So there's a lot of that kind of, you know, balls to the walls math you have to do, because a lot of it doesn't necessarily matter about, okay, what does a 3-card hand, a 2-card hand look like for me? It's more of, will I have to block before my opponent does? And is this 6 attack, which is going to get Snapdragoned here, and the follow-up being, that's I think what was being calculated here perhaps by Nathan, saying Snapdragon seems likely. What is the follow-up? And there's the Snapdragon scalers to give go again, and the use
Oh,
of the mask.
the mask activation. Assault the wounds. Yep. Pretty good follow up.
Hey, you're
I
telling
think
me
that
6 into another 6, Elaine. I mean, that look at the reach that one blue pitch did. It's an unreal, the significance here. So there's the card being blocked. All right, well, it's a mounting anger for 4 go again. 1 float here. You can probably assume that the remainder here becomes something like a Blaze Headlong, probably into a another Phoenix Flame. All right, full coverage offered here. That's the last usage of block for the Furnace. Blaze Headlong 4 go again. Wants to see the red card ahead of it to get go again. That way, with the 1 floating resource, I mean, you're looking for a Phoenix Flame here.
Mm-hmm.
All right, chipping away, slow and steady. But nobody wants to be in that situation right now where Nathan is. Being at 11 and a lava burst to follow things up is a beautiful, beautiful, usage. I mean, we've seen so many lava bursts in this game, Elaine.
Yeah, Michael's got a pretty decent life lead here by 10. However, all of his equipment is much more used than Nathan's right now, so just got an E-strike.
Yeah,
Bottom
this
of card. But he
is.
does have an Art of War in hand that I'm assuming will just go into the arsenal.
I think that's fair. I think that we just toss in a fat 7 here, see how Nathan responds, and by pocketing that Art of War, you can be full on assured that Michael's looking to get a little bit closer with this one. This might be a situation where I think that Nathan is evaluating the hand and saying, I don't believe I have enough to do a kill shot here. So I'm probably going to have to preserve some life. I think this might be a situation here where Nathan might just give 2 cards to block, send a snatch and see what happens. But, or, 2-card block, go with this Brand with Cinderclaw into a snatch just to get yourself closer. But at the same time, Michael's thinking exactly what you're thinking, which is this Art of War is my ticket to winning this matchup. So the life lead, the pressure with this E-strike, it's all lining up for Michael.
Yeah, and Nathan still hasn't used his mask on his side, so down to 11 life. Michael presenting another 7. You're kind of pressuring Nathan into a spot where you might have to use his mask on a turn that's less optimal, or he doesn't get to go present as much damage as he usually would, like we saw Michael do a few turns ago. I think I would agree here. This would just be a 2 card block, and then either coming in something with the Brainless Cinderclaw and a snatch, or just snatch and arsenaling that second card to try and set up for something big. But of course, Nathan doesn't know that he is going to be sitting across an Art of War turn, sitting across from an Art of War turn very, very soon.
This is week 5 of the ArcLight League. Nathan Crawford undefeated, who has a bye week in between all this at 3-0. Michael Jasker at 3-1. So these players, the top of the bracket as it stands here, some unique rules at the ArcLight League where you can't necessarily just take your favorite hero and ride off into the sunset. So players are really playing a little bit off of their normal game out of their comfort zone. I saw Majin Bey play Bravo. So let's just be real here. Probably one of his most hated heroes ever. And there he was playing Bravo. I got to call that match. It was quite exceptional. The one time where I can say that I was on par with Majin Bey on a particular hero. Felt good.
All right, so it looks like we are going to get a 2 card block here. It's another thing with Ninja and Fi is that most of your cards only block for 2, right? So,
All right, so we'd love to see this again. Just a matter of being able to make mountains out of molehills in terms of what kind of nonsense you've got. Rise from the ashes into a Phoenix Flame into a snatch. This is as much pressure as you can kind of hope for here. But as you can see, Michael Jasker saying, cool, send me the bill. We're going to pop off at this moment. With that, I mean, look at it. Michael Jasker's got a blue pitch card and an Art of War and a whole bunch of gas. So let's just see how deep this goes.
we also see that Nathan drew an Art of War, which is pretty scary here because Art of War does not block.
Fun part, though, is that, yes, it doesn't block, but it does work at instant speed. It allows you to go ahead and give you options like your cards block for 1 more. You can block out of the arsenal if you need to. Allows you to draw into some cards, perhaps to help you filter out some 2 blocks into some 3 blocks if you're feeling lucky, if you're feeling spicy. So there are opportunities here for that Art of War to pay dividends. But we'll see just how deep this goes as a 5 go again, staring Nathan Crawford in the face. Michael Jasker had all the dominoes line up at the right time. This haymaker party is coming to a conclusion.
Yeah, you are completely right. Art of War does offer some defensive value. It's just obviously ideally not how you would want to use the card, but when you're sitting at 3 life, got 2 cards still left in hand, 2 cards floating, an attack coming in for 5 with go again. It's you got to play to your outs.
So your outs being, in this case, maybe leaning on that Art of War to actually bolster some of the defensives that you've got in hand. But you're right. I mean, a card that has no block. We saw this from the Pro Tour. I just recently talked to Josh Lau, that Time Snap from Hell that he had in his hand that kind of, I don't want to say cost him a match, but ultimately having a no block card in hand when you need a blocking card in hand, that could be a dangerous gambit. In this case, well, that Art of War does have some sneaky, slippery ways to be helpful, but it's going to cost you. So at this moment, 5 go again. It's going to meet up with some equipment here. The last bastion of hope is going to keep Nathan alive at 1. All right, well, it's a Searing Emberblade, a 3 go again.
And well, at least you have a 3 block in hand. Like I said earlier, most of your cards in this deck do not block for 3. They block for 2.
Oh, this is a nasty bit of a little bit of soul reading you got to do over here, because think about it. If you're anticipating no follow-up, then you can kind of give up your hand and then be caught with an Art of War that does nothing. In this case, look at that. Nothing doing. Nothing doing. All right, and just at the end of it, War Piece, you decide. Look at the hand, though, from Michael Jasker. 2 natural go-agains. Fuel for a potential fire if you need it. Disgusting, disgusting hand here.
Yeah, I would. Yep, he's just gonna take it. I would say absolutely no blocks there. Just send me the bill.
Ooh, he got gooned here. So that is a very, very nice sight because that two go again is happening twice. So those Ravenous Rabbles, the first set of bad news is met by the fact that, well, the other one holding its hand is not going to be any better. But ultimately, when you're clinging to one piece of life, Elaine, every card that does damage is a dangerous gambit as the last bit of defense makes its way. Soul Bead Strike ends the game here for Michael Jasker. What a game, Elaine. That one was fast and furious, but ultimately, when it comes down to it, there's some pretty nasty decisions and some timely Art of Wars. Timely and untimely at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, I think we saw Michael get an Art of War turn. We also saw him get value off of the mask, which Nathan just didn't get a chance to do. Michael just kind of ran away with the game way too fast for him to keep up with. And key in the five match is just maintaining that momentum, which Michael did really well.
That's indeed what happened there. So Michael Jasker at 4-1 now, with Nathan Crawford falling to 3-1. Another victory for Canada. So we're feeling good here. We're going to put that one in our cap. Elaine, thank you so much for joining me on this casting journey.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me. This was a great way to start my day.
Yeah, perfect. All right, friends. Well, that's it for this round of the ArcLight League. We'll catch you in the next game. Tune in, subscribe, all that jazz. See you in a bit.
Welcome back, everybody, to the ArcLight League. It is week number 5, and I am joined by Will Bradshaw of the Card Guys. How are you doing, Will?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm very happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure to hang out with you. We got 2 great games to feature on the stream today, both of them featuring Azelia. And this first one is Lucas Oswald versus Chris Iali. Let's go ahead and just jump right into it and break it down as it unfolds. So, as you can see here, we've got Lucas Oswald sitting at 2-1 on top on Azelia versus Chris Iali on Max the Hype Nitro. And kicking things off right away on turn 0 is the play of Knock the Death Whistle. This is going to allow you to go and fetch a card from your deck, put it on top of your deck, and then reload, which is perfect for Azelia because it sets up a nice dominated turn 0. And that's pretty good in my book.
A turn 0 knock is a very exciting thing to see as an Azelia player. It gives you all the options in the world. The thing you want most is a turn 0 dominate. And does he have a Deadeye happening here too? No, that was his pitch, which is usually what Deadeye ends up being most of the time anyways.
You know
This is
what?
exciting.
8 dominate on Red in the Ledger, turn 0. Feels pretty good, pretty nutty. And after the hit goes through, Chris is going to be forced into 1 action on this turn. Doesn't matter if the boost, doesn't matter on possibly gaining go again because you only get the 1. So he sends a blue throttle for 4, and that is immediately snap taken, followed by the Arsenal and Path. These players are playing at just a breakneck pace, aren't they?
Lightning fast. And the main takeaway I've taken away is that he got to deny the creation of one of those remind me what it's called, the little
Oh, the
thing that Max
hyperdriver?
makes?
Yeah.
No hyperdriver on that turn, which is what Max wants to be doing. So it's big trouble. I mean, honestly, the second I saw that this was a Max v Azelia matchup, as someone who's been playing Azelia pretty hardcore for a while now, I have to imagine this is big trouble for Chris. Like, Chris is really going to have some things line up and things not line up for his opponent to really pull it out, because this is a matchup that is pretty easy for Azelia in my experience, but we'll see.
And this Azelia is putting on a show already. We got drill shot into drill shot. The Snapdragon Scalers for the go again on this turn. A double arrow turn with no possible go again except for Snapdragon Scalers means it was pretty face up. But then the Rain Razors on the back end really just sends this turn into overdrive.
Now, this is fantastic. Anytime you finish a match with Azelia and you've lost, and you notice you still have your either your bracers or your snaps still on the board, that's when you know you've done something wrong. So anytime you have an opportunity to get a good value turn out of them, just like we just saw, it wasn't amazing. There wasn't a Rain Razor stapled to it, but it was still a good turn. Crack that value. Take advantage of it. As we saw, he also arsenaled a Ravenous Rabble, so he knew he was going to get to go wide the following turn as well. So just beautiful way to work it over. And I see a JJE in the hand.
And look at this. We have a Ravenous Rabble into revealing a Ravenous Rabble, followed by, just as you mentioned it, Judge Judy shows up. Judge, Jury, and Executioner, a card that hasn't seen a ton of play thus far, but making its way into Lucas's list. Gonna be loaded, buffed up by both Read the Glide Path and the Lace with Inertia here, pushing 11 damage. And you can see Chris just absolutely chuckling at the misfortune of it all, because this is going to remove that Arsenal card if you don't end up playing it. And it's also just going to do a ton of disruption and damage over the top. You don't have to worry about the aim counter on hit here, but you do have to worry about on hit damage.
Big Booty Judy, I like to call it. I was real excited about that card when it first dropped. I'm currently not running it in my list, just for the same reason we saw just there. It was a vanilla 1 for 5, which is not bad, but there are better options. Big Booty Judy is as exciting as it can be when it does the thing. If it's not doing the thing, it is just below rate.
I love how Chris here is making such good use of the 2-card hand that he had. He was able to attack, boost. He Teklo Foundry hearted to get himself a hyperdriver, cranked it, and then followed up with Banksy. All of that, of course, was completely let through and leaked, which means life parity is maintained, but you never really want to be at life parity when your Azelia opponent has a 5-card hand and a Ravenous Rabble on the board.
Absolutely. Life parity against Azelia means you're looking at a 15 damage turn coming at you.
Ravenous Rabble here revealing a Rain Razors, which you can put in your back pocket for next turn. If you are Chris, you know that's possibly floating around there. Sitting at the 1 and 3 mark and taking 3 damage there is Chrisiali, staring down the, well, I would say the gun, but really it's more the bow and arrow of Azelia. And back-to-back-to-back pumps on the yellow Bolton shot makes it for 12 and lose every card in your hand. With the on-hit effect of any of those, really.
Now, if you notice, this has, I believe, 3 inertias on threat. Technically, 2 of them are Seeks, but that's you ain't keeping squat if this thing hits you.
Yep, you lose every card every time, which is a real possibility here. With
what, you can put them on the bottom if you put the inertia first on the stack.
You know what, that is exactly true.
And for second cycle, that Max is really going to be prepared.
Yep, sitting at 11. Unfortunately, Max looking at a large life deficit now, but a solid hand to try and put something together. Inertia is going to loom large for the end of the turn, so you do want to use everything available to you. And starting off with a Rev Up, a card that just pushes some nice chunk damage for 6 with the go again. Swings in with Data Link for 3. If this hits, you get to Opt, which could help you in some scenarios, but here it's just a nice vanilla 3, and basically just know what you're going to burn off that pulse wave harpoon that's going to follow this up.
Absolutely. Now, he hasn't blocked with any armor yet. That's not true. He's blocked with his chest, but he's still sitting on some block. He's gonna get it back to life parity again, but it's just unless Lucas just has a not very good turn, it's probably big trouble. It's probably big trouble for Chris.
This is a good sequence, though, because this Pulse Wave is going to reveal 3 cards. It is going to mean that Chris has most of a read on what Lucas can do on his turn. He's going to have to reveal 3 out of those cards, and one of them will make their way onto the combat chain. It's a 4-card hand plus arsenal that we do know, I believe that is a Rain Razors in the arsenal. It could be something else if he ended up bottoming a card at some point, but nevertheless going to snatch up that drill shot and put that on. It's going to most likely be the only thing that gets blocked with, unless we just decide to throw something else in front of it. But nope, the answer is no. We're going to crank, and then that's going to be the end of the turn. Those inertias and seek and destroy effects are going to trigger, but find nothing in hand.
Now, forcing a block there is pretty critical. He could have very easily just eaten that damage and had a very good turn, where now it's going to be still a good turn, but far from as nasty as it could have been.
Yeah, 4 damage and the face-up Rain Razors and Arsenal, which we know is likely to get played. We know the top card is the Lace with Inertia, so it's not a dominated arrow, but you can still draw that, and it looks like he's going to flip-flop. Actually, he's going to swap that in with Azelia so he can grab that. Then he's going to double pitch or just single pitch into the Death Dealer for no effect, so that he doesn't have to discard off the Codex, which then allows him to go grab an arrow. We don't technically know what arrow, but we could probably guess it's something like a Red in the Ledger, since you have the resources up.
The beauty of pitching to Death Dealer but not loading a thing. I've done that into many matches, and my opponent looks at me like, "What are you doing?" It's like, don't worry. When I play the Codex, you'll get it.
The question mark of why would you do that, or is that even legal? That is the classic play of an often maligned underdog hero. And, Azelia used to live in that space, used to be the hero that people just chuckled at as a hero that couldn't really do much of anything compared to others. And more recent success has proven, that's completely wrong now. She's much more powerful.
Now, this is a big Endless Arrow. He might bottom it to try and find something different, or just dominate something huge as well. But I've noticed, I remember talking about Endless Arrow when I was playing Lexi back in the day, and how none of the Azaleas are playing it. And all my Azalea player friends would tell me, "Oh, it's not good in Azalea." And let me tell you, it's great. Getting to be, if he was forced to block last turn, he could block for 3 with that Bolton shot, and then send in the Endless Arrow for 13, which threatens to come right back. It's just
exactly.
It's a thing of beauty.
I was talking to Brody Spurlock, calling winner at Calling Phuket on Azelia, in fact, and he mentioned that Endless Arrow he views as a simple arrow that has a premeditate trigger on it, a ponder trigger, if you will, on it. If this hits, I get a card in my arsenal. It just turns out that card's an Endless Arrow, and that is such a good way to look at it when you think about it.
Let me tell you, if there was a 0 for 4 that said on hit make a ponder, and I guarantee it's going to be a 0 for 4 arrow that I get from that ponder, I'd play it every time.
Yeah, well, turns out a lot of people are. It's called Endless Arrow. Blocked out completely. Chris Yali sniffs it out, decides, this is worth giving the equipment and the full hand. But it just means that the onslaught continues, because Red in the Ledger, 11, and the whole hand is given again. It's in this awkward moment where you just have to give everything you've got to try and not succumb to these terrifying on-hit and disease tokens.
And this is trouble, because either it can be a fatigue through damage, because I think Chris is going to be the one who's going to be giving up the hands, or, as we see right now, never mind, that was just a fish up a pump, but dominate. Fatigue might not even be a thing, because Azelia has easy access to Dom.
Yep, and we're going to see, even though it's not dominated, it was a 3-pump turn. Yeah, a 3-pump turn is pretty nuts. And look at this. If this hits
he can't
reload,
even block it.
If it hits reload, and not only that, we have the resources to reload an arrow in the hand in Red in the Ledger and send even more damage on the face of it.
A blood rot plus this extra arrow on top. Oh gosh, golly, Chris, you put up a valiant effort, but I think this is one of the few matchups that Azelia can't lose. You'd have to try hard.
Well, I mean, Putting on a masterclass as Lucas Oswald, showing how you just go so tall with, Azelia and all of these pumps that have made their way in via outsiders and just by the way the deck is built. Here's 7 on the face of it with go again, on hit, reload off the Bolton shot. But we don't, in this case, even care about the reload. We just care about the go again into the Codex that's just lurking in our hand.
And how many times has Lucas gone wide this game? Like it's very impressive for a hero who's usually just doing one thing. Not right now.
That's exactly right. Finding enough Bolton shots, being able to throw those Ravenous Rabbles for 4, 4, and 3.
Cashing
means
that early snaps.
Yeah, exactly. Just using every tool at your disposal to try and put on as much pressure and make Chris as uncomfortable as possible. Here, blocking this out, thinking maybe we get the value out of stopping a reload. They've already used Death Dealer, but taking the Tunic resource, playing the Deadeye, and then following it up with a Codex. And I
Oh
think this
gosh,
spells
stealing the last
end.
potential card. Codex stealing your blocking card is just so bananas.
And
Wonderful show from Lucas here. Great showing from Chris as well.
A painful ending for Chris, but man, was that a clinic from Azelia. They say one shot, one kill is all you need, and Lucas shot a few arrows, but they were all for massive amounts of damage, weren't they?
Ace up her sleeve, whole deck up her sleeve, it looked like there. She was just throwing them.
Now, that's not the only Azelia game that we have on the docket, so let's go ahead and jump into the second one. This one's going to be a spicy one as well, because this one is none other than Rhea Adams on Azelia, and we've got the Tunnel of Doom there, the Infinite Tunnel, as Majin checks to see if the recording is functioning. Majin Bey over here, Wizard Stan, a member of the Wizard Council, but today playing Kasai of the Golden Sands, and I have actually played this matchup a ton over the past 3 months from the Kasai side, and recently I picked up Azelia and have played it a few times now from the Azelia side. Where do you fall on this matchup from the Azelia side or from the Kasai side? How do you feel like this goes?
I couldn't tell you from the Kasai side because I've only played Kasai in draft. I didn't even play her back when she was a Blitz hero, the crew hero. But I've always respected her because she has always been good to a certain degree. I always thought she was a little bit overrated, but that's neither here nor there. Azalea, though, gosh, it's sometimes it feels like it's like a 70-30, and then sometimes it's just like a straight 50-50. It's so funny because like I sit down in front of a Kasai and I'm like, I'm gonna beat you up, and then it doesn't happen. And it gets bad all of a sudden, and it's like, oh no, I'm getting low on life. They're doing the thing repeatedly. Like I feel like when you run hot, it's very good for you, and when you don't, it's just like a struggle.
Yeah, I totally agree that this matchup can go really either way. And looking at the equipment presentation, Majin not running the Crown of Dominion that gives you the automatic gold means that this cash-in that's in hand right now is a bit clunky, is not going to be played, and it doesn't make a very good blocking card, but it could be great paired up with that Sink below. Rhea, on the other side, we can't see the texture of her hand, but we do know that we're starting with a Spire Sniping, which is going to help most likely find something that we want. No, it isn't. It's just going to be the blue Spire Sniping.
And this is why, well, I guess in this specific scenario, it wouldn't matter as much. But you notice some people have moved over to the yellow Spire Sniping just because it gives it that break point.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as I love it being a blue, I think they're right. I think the yellow is just a little bit better.
Yeah, if we're looking at the way that the Azelia deck list is starting to move its construction, it's becoming that more red line type list that leans and is sort of more predicated on all of those reds and then yellows sort of fueling that with a large amount of zero cost arrows to kind of play towards that. And this is kind of one of those points. I mean, like if you're looking at a card that doesn't necessarily do exactly what you want it to do as an attacking card, having it as a yellow would be far better. Nevertheless, going to be completely blocked out here through a combination of equipment block, card block, and the Sink below from hand, leaving Majin in a great spot to play Slice and Dice, have the 2-card combo that you normally play for in a blue plus Blade Runner.
Drawing the blue off of that Sink below was pretty sweet. Pretty sweet.
Feels quite good as Kasai to be able to play consistent like this, and then just to have pop-off turns. The question mark of whether or not you want to play Slice and Dice, this is one of those times where you can look at the damage and go, this feels really good. To play an effective 3-card hand and push 11 damage, that feels nice.
That second sword swing was for 8. That's the kind of stuff where I'm like, Kasai, I didn't know you could do that.
Slice and Dice is a hell of a card. We'll say that. It's a 0 for 4 if you've got the go again, and he proved exactly the power of it. Nevertheless, sitting on a Take It on the Chin in hand, along with a Spoils of War, Command and Conquer, and he's going to use all of these cards to try and get the best numbers, present the most effective amounts of damage. And Rhea trying to stack up this infecting shot. She's got the resources at her disposal to already fire it off. How many pumps does she have? She's got 2 on there already.
Now, generally speaking, it's always right to keep the last card for Arsenal up, but because it is the full gambit, the infecting, frailty, and inertia, you might as well just double infecting as that matter. You might as well just send it all. But generally speaking, it is safer to keep that card back. Now, if she's doing the thing that I like to do, I like to pretend that tunic counter is an arsenal. So you're allowed to skip
Yes,
arsenal when you're coming up on your third tunic counter.
that is
Even though
exactly
it's
right.
it's not true, because if you draw no arrow hand, you still lose the game, where
Yeah,
the arsenal could have bailed you out.
that is exactly right. Yeah, so if you're curious, that is the general philosophy of having a card in arsenal means that you can start your turn with Skullbone Cross Wrap, and in doing so, you're allowed to peek the top and maybe sculpt your hand in some way, shape, or form. But when you have a tunic resource and an arrow in hand, you can actually just Death Dealer into an arrow and be able to kind of continue your turn that way.
Bada boom, bada bing. This is what you like to do. Just draw the arrow and not be punished for the fact that you didn't keep an arsenal. Now,
Yeah.
as we see here, her pitch, you see that raging
I
onslaught.
was about to
That
bring that up. Interesting yellow Raging Onslaught, a yellow block 3. Definitely something that you might see brought in
that
for a like a Dromai
brought in for Dromai and Prism, of
Prism.
course.
Yep.
Now that just tells me that she is running almost the full deck. Probably not everything, but she's if perhaps Majin was like, I'm gonna fatigue you, she said, no, you're not. I'm putting in even more yellows so that I can
Yep.
account for the fact that I'm running a fat deck. And I respect it.
You can see over there she's got 58 cards in deck, and we're
There you go.
multiple turns into this game. So yeah, you can certainly see she has fatigue on the mind as a possible strategy. And another copy of Take It on the Chin being employed here to
Hmm.
stop this damage, stop the reload effect, and essentially stymie the turn unless she chooses to play out some magical line with Codex of Frailty. That's not going to happen. Just going to send the sword here, popping the gold, playing a very
Mm.
value-based version of Kasai. This is
Popping the
definitely
gold.
one that can just block out and send 2 swords, right?
Well, I was going to ask you, as someone who's played some Kasai, how have you liked Take It on the Chin? Take It
Okay,
on the Chin just seems like a dream come true. Am I wrong?
I have played just about every version of Kasai that you can possibly make. I've played more defensive ones, I've played mid-range versions that are based on value, and I've played I've played a more aggressive version of the list.
Hmm. Hmm.
And in every state and in every form, Take It on the Chin is just an MVP level card.
It's
Not just for
so good.
sideboards, it's so good in every scenario. And it's honestly hard to justify not putting it in every single matchup. It sits currently in my sideboard, and every time I look at my sideboard before I start a game, I'm like, that card has a utility spot here. Maybe I should just include it and go above 60.
I've what blew my mind was I saw a Kasai player use it against a Kano even. I'm like, oh god, it's even
Exactly.
good there. It's even good
Exactly.
there.
Yeah. It is so good in so many ways. And it because it fits all those slots, it really just is a perfect slam dunk sort of sideboard card that you could bring into just about any matchup and you'd be happy with.
Hmm.
Got
All
the
right, so where did
scout the
we leave off?
periphery here. We've scouted the periphery. We've discovered this dominated sleep dart, which can be
Oof.
good against Kasai. Doesn't have the biggest potential that it could in this meta compared to some other heroes, but it does keep you from activating Kasai's effect, and it's going to send 7 damage over the top here.
Absolutely. Now, this is where, and it's starting to tilt this way. I always have a panic moment when I fight against Kasai with Azelia, because like the first half of the match, you just can't get any damage through, and you're like, "What is happening? I'm never gonna get them." And then the armor starts to fall away, and then they don't have an arsenal for a turn, and things just start to get better. We'll see if that happens for Rhea.
You hit it spot on, and in fact, I think that's one of the biggest, most important aspects of this matchup from the Kasai side is effective use and really smart use of equipment, because equipment is the key, one of the few keys of this matchup from the Kasai side. When you use your equipment and what on hits you stop, so that you can most effectively maintain a higher life total. Because if
Absolutely.
Azalea is playing from behind and you get them low enough, Azelia has to start making very tough decisions with very bad blocking cards and no real
Absolutely.
equipment.
Absolutely. She doesn't want to block. And then on top of that, she's not good at blocking when you force her to, too.
Exactly.
It's just, we'll see. We'll see. But I
Remorseless
like
here. Yeah, look at this Remorseless. This is dominated off the top of the deck, and with the aim counter, which isn't going to matter, but the subtle flex of the aim counter being added there is kind of fun. But this is gonna tax every card that is an action card that you play, like Spoils of War, for example, is going to cost you
and
a
slice and
point of
dice.
life. Yeah, if you choose Slice and Dice as well, gonna cost you that point of life as well.
Now, she always has, or he rather, always has the option to block with them. But this is what's nice. I like that Remorseless has text here. Sometimes Remorseless doesn't feel that amazing, but with the front pumps that Kasai wants to play, this is a pretty relevant on hit.
It is. This is essentially 2 extra damage. It feels kind of like an infecting shot in a way against most heroes, because if you're looking at range analysis and trying to figure out how much this could actually do, saying 2 action cards might be your ceiling. And so in a way, it's kind of like an infecting shot that adds 2 damage. But here,
Mhm.
it could do exactly that. It could do more depending on that arsenal as well.
Okay.
Blocking for
I was
3.
going to say, I forgot what the arsenal was, but it's not a D react. But if it were, we'd have even more text that matters. Remorseless, just an all star crew card.
Yeah, the entire deck. Oh, that's right. It was Nourishing Emptiness that we pocketed. And instead, we're going to cycle that and get a Blade Runner, which doesn't really serve
Absolutely.
us much purpose on this turn, but a great arsenal card nevertheless. We
It's
have
great.
everything we need here.
Ooh, but inertia, so we won't be able to keep an arsenal.
That is very true. That's very true. Starting off with Slice and Dice, this gives +1 to the front on our first sword. Then we have +2 from the Spoils of War, which means that we're swinging a nice beefy sword to start. We're also getting Go Again, and the very important for our specialization on-hit effect of every sword that hits gets that extra copper. We get 2 copper. We can pay into the Vigor here, which we definitely want to do from Majin's side. We have exactly the resources
There we go.
necessary, and we can just send 5 into 6 into create 1 Vigor, get more copper. That is just a textbook Kasai turn, and putting on the back foot is Majin Bey, putting Rhea to the brink here, 7 to 21.
This is where she needs some kind of crazy arrow that steals his turn and does a lot of damage. Basically, a big dominated Red in the Ledger, most likely. I loved that he was able to convert that draw off of the bottoming the arsenal into Braveforge Bracer's value, as well as creating a vigor. Like, very impressive. Very, very well played right now from Majin.
Sitting on the side of Majin Bey, as we can see his hand, we can see the texture of his hand. We see that we have a Vigor, we have a gold up, 4 copper. We have the capacity, if we wanted to block with these 2 yellow cards and our equipment and still throw Command and Conquer by pitching Outland Skirmish. That's a great place to be in against a hero that wants an arsenal at the end of their turn. And so it's going to be interesting to see how he chooses to navigate this turn. Starting off by no blocking the Bolton shot. I think this is super wise. Use your blocks on whether or not your opponent's going to follow this up with another arrow from hand with that reload.
And with Rhea sitting on Death Dealer and Bracers, like, there's no reason to try and bend over backwards to stop that thing. Okay.
And Tunic as well. Not using the Tunic resource there. Instead, pitching the Battering Bolt, trying to filter through her hand perhaps. Sending a Bolton shot for 7 with the reload effect still active. Go Again here still active. We can assume there's either a Codex of Frailty in hand or...
For some kind of good arrow.
Exactly. Gonna cover this up, and let's see how she plays this out.
I'm hoping it's a Codex, but you can bullseye. Yep, you can bullseye no matter what it is. Endless arrow. Not too shabby.
Not a bad
as
turn at all.
disruptive as we'd like, but not too shabby.
But you can see the blood on her hands there in the hand is going to create some problems for Rhea. Being at 7, popping the gold here is super important because you do want to draw a card making these swords free, and now you can destroy 4 copper. We get the opportunity to attack twice. We can choose go again. We can choose buff weapon. Let's see the choices he makes. That is exactly what I was going to ask. I was wondering if he does the double buff, the one go again, and the attack twice. Maybe he chooses a couple of other sequences that you can kind of go with. You could consider the 2 go agains. You could consider the double attack twice and just leave the weapons as is.
It's a great point. Kasai getting that blood in her hands at a pivotal moment with Rhea down on life. This could very easily spell like the end of the game. We'll just have to wait and see.
This could be something like you buff the same weapon that you give go again and attack twice too. And then you're swinging for 8, and then follow that up with a sword for 2 at the end of it all. So a total of 10 damage turn off of essentially no resources.
I'm wondering on the previous turn if Majin sniffed out that endless arrow. I suppose it could have been any arrow, so it's naturally you block the bolt and shot. But she had the potential to load off of that, snap it, and then load again off of Bullseye last turn. I think that's what she was going for. That could have been pretty darn spicy.
So this turn is basically face up at this point. We're going to have a lot of opportunity from Majin's side to create vigor through the roof and pitch into Brave Forge Bracers. Remember, these swords are free because we drew a card off of the gold crack, meaning that we're going to be able to send this sword for 5 and continue the damage onslaught. So going on through this turn, you've got basically one swing after this, which isn't going to be for much, but you're already asking a lot. And a sigil, a rare sigil, putting
I like
up to 9, bringing the Pro Tour LA spice with the sigil here at the end of the game.
That is a relatively old Azelia tech, but it was played pretty heavily at one point in time. I like to see it. That's fun.
Going to still respect the damage here. Don't want to go down to 2. Is
I believe
Rhea.
she's still sitting on that endless arrow, so if she has a pump, she can send it for 7. Still a pretty good play.
But the danger here, you see in Majin's hand, a Nourishing Emptiness lurking there. If he can activate Kasai, if he's gotten rid of the Command and Conquer, or if he can get rid of the Command and Conquer, we have Dominate as an avenue. He's going to say no, he's just going to block the Endless Arrow. Call it a day there. Snapdragons possibly could be activated here.
Only if she's got a Rain Razors, I would imagine. Well, she could just load whatever the other thing if it's an arrow, so yeah.
Yep. Tunic resource is up, so she could load a 1-cost arrow. This could be a Codex turn. We've seen no Codices. Maybe one Codex?
True. Maybe one. Yeah, I think there was one.
There's the Snapdragon, so it is going to be a follow-up.
Not a Rain, you're right. Alrighty, we'll see.
The beauty of this is that, and loading a Spire Sniping. Now, this could go really interestingly. The beauty of this is that you get to draw a card as well, which means that she conceivably could draw into a pump. That could be a pump in hand, which means that plus the Azelia effect into a Codex. Oh my God, the line that she got. Ravenous Rabble drawn off of the Death Dealer along with the Codex of Frailty, meaning that she can now play Rav into Codex into a 0-cost arrow.
Mio Mayo, Rhea is stringing together some pretty good value. I gotta say. This is this has got some potential all of a sudden. And I thought the Kasai had her cooked, Majin, I should say.
Let's see how he chooses to go about the rest of this turn. Looking at the graveyard for Rhea, we know that there is an Endless Arrow that she can go and fetch. We can assume there might be another 0-cost arrow, though the game hasn't been going
probably
that
Bolt and Shot,
far.
but
yeah, Bolt and Shot's the only one I can think of.
I think you grab Endless just because if you get a bad draw off the Ponder, you can at least arsenal a good arrow. So
and this
probably
is the
Endless, if I had to guess.
This is the unfortunate part as well about Majin's scenario in this sort of play out is that he did have the rare attacks in the graveyard to go and fetch, meaning he is going to have to lose a card from his hand and load up what is essentially not as good of a turn in a 5-cost CNC. It is for free because of the vigor, and it does threaten lethal, like very casual lethal.
Very casual lethal and threatening arsenal, which is nice.
But she's carved her way back into this, hasn't she?
She sure has. That is some very solid play. I like what I see. And this is where good blocking cards are always nice. The arrows always block well, at least. Let's see what she has sitting here. This is a very deceptive hand because if it's a pump, and we know it was because she revealed it off of that Ravenous Rabble, then she could draw a card off a Death Dealer, and now it's a 4-card hand, just like that.
Had a
Fate
fate foreseen,
foreseen.
finds an endless arrow again, has the pump on it. The lace with inertia is ready to load that endless arrow alongside of. It's a free arrow. Oh, and a premeditate as well. Gonna send it all for
Yeah,
10.
10 for 10. Now, Majin's still in an okay spot because he's so well, he actually, I was going to say he's so good at blocking, but all of his armor is pretty much currently occupied. So he's gotta respect this a little bit.
He has a slice and dice red in the arsenal. He could allow this to hit to some degree to be able to play out red slice and dice plus run through plus a blue. So you could value block here for 6, take 4. Let's see how
And
far
have
he
a
goes into
pretty
it.
spicy little crackback, you're right. Could be Blade Runner Blue as well, that for a little bit more value than the hit and run.
He's
Or I
going to
guess
give
run
both
through
of
does the
those, yeah.
same thing. Yeah,
Run
you're
through
right.
gives +2, in fact. So it's actually a better
Oh,
value play to keep that run through for play. He's going to give the equipment here to try and just take 3, putting him to 3 at this point. And in doing so, he's going to be able to play out his standard Kasai 2-card hand, if you will, with a slice
well,
and dice on the top of that, which is going to make it very dangerous for Rhea, who can't block well. We already mentioned this at the beginning of the game.
this is pretty huge for him. This is a big enough damage turn where she's probably going to have to give up the whole hand. He's far
Mm-hmm.
enough away from not being dead that she can't kill him with just a naked dominated arrow. Because sometimes like a 0 for 4 searing shot is good enough if he's at 2, but he's at 3, so a little bit of trouble. A little bit of trouble. Very good play from both these players. I mean, not too surprising. There's some absolute killers.
Rhea Adams looking at the glinting blade of a Centauri saber for 3, knowing that there's a real shot, run through, or some other go again attack reaction is going to come down here. Those arrows that you can block with that block for 3, a vital block, are actually just going to push that Centauri to 4.
And look
Very
at that.
dangerous.
Turning her 3 blocks into 2 blocks. Like
Mm-hmm.
just trouble.
And like we talked about with that slice and dice, this Centauri Saber is going to come for 7 and threatening to go to 8 with any block of an attack action card. And you see it there. Going to give the entire hand and equipment suite no
All right.
ability to sculpt the top of the deck. From here on, it's blind Azelia.
Okay. Interesting.
Now,
I
this
was
is a
certain we were gonna maybe try and do a dominate, but just a 4. No pump in front of it. She could be sitting on Rain Razors, but I don't think you would cash that in here. You'd probably arsenal it, but at 3, you're in pretty big trouble.
This is exactly the right play, giving the in the swing, because then you have Blade Flurry in the back pocket to win the game with. Hit and run is your go again effect. You've got Emboldened Blade for pitch. There
It
is a
was the
Rain
rain.
Razors.
Wow.
Going to
Well,
1
might
is
as well get him to 1.
totally fine, because here's your go again. You've got the resources for Centauri. And Blade
And the pump
Flurry.
is just
Yep.
backbreaking. We'll see. We'll see. She might have some tricks up her sleeve, but
The casual
Majin Bay has
defensive Art of War could show up. That would be a spicy play, and one that I don't think we'll see here. Nevertheless, a block here for 3 with an arrow will push the Centauri Saber to 3, but then the Blade Flurry will come over the top. No, it's going to be a 2/2. There's the Blade Flurry that's going to put her to 1, and then it's going to make this
1.
block even more dangerous and difficult, because we're going to be able to pump with the Brave Forge Bracers, put it to 5 or 6. It's going to give the whole hand because of those 2 blocks.
Oh, that's trouble. Forced to block with everything. In a perfect world, she gets to keep an arsenal target and maybe try to dominate a 0 for 4 for lethal, except it won't be because he has Valiant Dynamo. Just very well played by Majin Bay, blocking when he needed to block. Oh, critically, no source of go again here,
No
huh?
source of go again, but I
But
mean, if you're going to
sitting
draw
on
no go again, you might as well draw 2 Blade Flurries off the back. Am I right?
and of course, it's the position where if she can get away with just a 2 block, then it's amazing,
Yeah,
but
and that'll
he
do
didn't
it.
allow it.
Rhea
Very well played.
falls to Majin Bay. You know, there was a moment there to consider because we did see earlier in the game she pitched a Fate Foreseen, so there was a real possibility she might have had more in the deck. As you mentioned earlier, she did have a litany of cards in her list that she probably just fat decked into. So there was a possibility she
Absolutely.
might have had at the end of it all a defense reaction.
That's true, and a D-Rack there saves her from death, and she gets to load an arrow shoot. It very well could get her right back into the match if she had had one there. That's a great point.
Nevertheless, Majin Bay picks up the win on Kasai in a very back and forth, very exciting game. That is probably one of my favorite matchups as of late, watching Kasai stare down the arrows of Azelia. And in this case, Kasai ends up picking it up. So hopefully you enjoyed those two games. And don't go too far because we've got a few more on the docket for you. So we'll be right back with you here at the ArcLight League.
We're here with more of the ArcLight League. I'm Cass, joined by Elaine. We're going to be jumping into a dash mirror between Easton Douglas and Matt Coles. We're going to just jump right on into this. I don't know, Elaine, how much you've seen of the dash mirror, but I imagine we're going to be seeing a lot of boosting, a lot of shooting, a lot of racing.
Yeah, I don't play much dash. I definitely don't play much of the dash mirror, but I would imagine that this is just a boost away. We are racing, and it looks like we've got a Spark of Genius and 2 induction chambers out turn 0, which is not bad.
Yeah, that's a pretty insane start for dash, especially when you're playing like slab dash, but even in the race, just having the extra induction chamber means that any of your blues can turn into, you know, that 6 damage potentially. Well, I guess you need more than a blue, but it's just getting those 2 induction chambers set up, getting the pistol load, being able to just convert blues into so much more value, even when you are drawing those dead hands of all blues. You can make it happen. Versus on the other side, just the 1 induction chamber so far, but a spark being played there as well. And will he be able to match induction chamber for induction chamber? And yes, he will. So both sides getting their induction chambers, getting all kitted out.
Yeah, he said, "Watch this. I can do it too." So.
But hey, I like that. I like that play. I think I'll do it myself. I think we'll both end up with that one, as Easton also sitting on another Spark of Genius, and I'm curious if we'll see even more items hitting the board straight away. If it's going to be more of that kind of boost dash aggressive style, where maybe we'll see a couple boosts from Easton into, you know, grabbing a Teklo core for the next turn, or if we'll see Purifier come out, because we do see a slight difference in the equipment suite of having the Teklo base arms for Easton and adaptive plating on the other side. And I know Easton is known to play a lot of slab dash which you would usually see these Teklo pieces included in. However, with this mirror matchup, we do see the boots not being the Evo as well. Instead, it's just going to be the accelerators. So maybe Easton leaning more towards that boost style.
Yeah, I would say so. I think it's interesting. You know, like I said, I don't play much of the dash mirror, so the boost, it just maybe seems better into the mirror. You can be a little bit more aggressive, but the Evo arms could also, without the block value, you might still be getting some other value off of it, more aggressive value.
All right, but we are just going to get 0 to 60 going into a pistol load. We do have the double induction chamber, so if that is also a T-bone blue on the top there, then that is also going to be able to set up for even more pistoling going through. Spark of Genius still, of course, going to be setting up for the future turns. Both of them have kind of drawn their Spark of Geniuses very early, right? We see Matt also sitting with a Spark in hand. However, looking at the rest of that hand composition, it likely needs to be the pitch card. So we've got, Throttle red, Pulse Wave Harpoon red, and Zipper Hit red, all needing that pitch to come through, as Easton is going to just grab that Tekla core. Pop the Achilles accelerators already, though, because he just wants to keep the aggression rolling.
Yeah, this is really aggressive to just, pop Achilles accelerator and go for it, but I'm assuming, yeah. I really don't remember what is in. Okay.
Oh, it's a payload. Okay, so
it's
just 6 more to end the chain. A really, really high damage turn from Easton. And I like that with the Achilles accelerator, just recognizing that, hey, when do you use this most of the time in Dash when you're playing aggressive? Well, it is to get an extra action point when you play Spark of Genius. This is an early Spark of Genius turn. We're playing boost against each other. The game's going to go pretty quick. Let's cash it in for, it was like 8 damage there. He's able to get off of drawing that extra card, having that extra blue pitch.
Yeah, and I think that was a good turn to kind of take back some tempo for Easton. Going first into a race mirror is not always what you want. He did get to set up with the induction chamber, but then we saw Matt come back and chip damage and do the same setup. But that was a really good turn to kind of gain some momentum, chip in a lot of damage, get a Teklo core out as well.
And we see this is actually a pretty solid turn off of just that one yellow pitch, right? You're able to play the Zipper Hit, the Pulse Wave Harpoon. You get the fire away on the pistol, and then still have a red throttle for your arsenal to set up a future turn. And we see quite a bit of blocking coming through for Easton. Does seem like he may want to just pistol a few times and set up a second Teklo core. As he does have the double induction chamber, he can make a lot of use out of those resources.
Yeah. Pulse Wave Harpoon that card is I think that's a really interesting design card. It can be difficult to deal with too, and just kind of annoying.
Yeah, especially when your deck is entirely just going to be action cards that are going to have to block it. You're not going to have any way to kind of deal with that. Very funny watching Mechs play against a lot of warriors that have hit the meta now, because they'll Pulse Wave Harpoon and they're like, wait a minute, I can't take any of these attack reactions onto the chain. These aren't action cards. I thought I could just take cards out of your hand. But yeah, it's most decks. It's actually such an absurd majestic for Mech being able to just steal a power card out of the way. And of course, in this matchup, pretty much any card you're going to find that you'd actually want to take is going to fall into the action category.
Yep, I remember the first time it was played against me, just being like, wait, what? Let me read that again.
As a brute player, I'm tired of it stealing blood rushes from my hand.
Yeah, my condolences for that.
But of course, on the other side here, right, we actually see an opportunity where Easton could play out the Evo arms and just kind of convert that extra block. And I think there's consideration to that in this aggro matchup, where having that extra, 5-6 health on your arm piece could be pretty insane. And it can come off the back of a, firing pistol, being able to give it go again with the second induction chamber, and still having 4 resources left over to play out the arms. It would sacrifice the ability to fully load the items, though.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what he does here. So I just don't, like I said, I don't play a lot of Mech, but you do get at least the block value, I think it could be a good idea to play out the arms.
Yeah, it's very interesting because it's like 6 life versus I guess there's 2 value on the pistol immediately and then the go again. Maybe it's more like 4 value than it is 6 value if you do all the loads versus just actually equipping the arm piece. And so I like this. We see Easton going for it, equipping the arms, getting a lot of extra HP in a matchup where you're just trying to burn each other down. And he already had a life lead going into that. So it's just going to add insult to injury with having that extra block value.
Yeah, and this is a really, good hand coming back from Matt, opening up with high octane into a throttle.
And we'll see how many boosts he can get through, because I think, is that a big shot in his hand from Bright Lights? It's like the mini max V. If you boost a couple of times, it gets that +2.
+2, yeah.
It's been included in a couple dash decks as a popper into Dromai, but interesting to see that just included in the list going into this dash matchup, having that additional damage. Curious if also, Matt was thinking, well, Easton is known for playing that slab dash. He might try and go slower, and I want to put as much extra damage in the extra big turns that I can put together.
Yeah, I mean, it'll come in for 8. Well, doesn't look like we're gonna play it out. Might just arsenal that.
See, he hasn't activated Foundry Heart, so we can go up to 2 resources here, but no, he is just gonna load an arsenal. You're right, absolutely.
Yeah, I believe Big Shot costs 3.
Oh, you're right, it does. It's not actually a 2 cost. It's like this mini max V, but it costs even more. It does a little bit less damage. It's probably, I think it's what, 2 boosts instead of 3 boosts on the chain.
Yeah, I think it's 2 boosts, gets +2, costs 3. You don't see many cost 3s in a dash deck.
No, definitely not. Wanting to kind of have that blue pitch go a long way instead of just hitting a single card. Even though you can get those extra resources with Foundry Heart, it's definitely not something we see every day, but it is going to be an arsenal and setting up for a potential much larger turn down the line for Matt Coles.
Yeah, I'll be really curious to see when it does actually come out into the field. Either that or it's a card that maybe we'll see crowned away, depending on how he's planning to use it, what his hands look like.
I actually think that's probably the most likely scenario, because it's going to be hard to keep the full, grips, especially as he's getting lower here. He's down to 14 going into the 23 on the other side. It looks like he's trying to keep the full hand, and it's going to be crowned. So we'll see if he actually crowns away the big shot or looks for something else. Looks like he did ship something away from the hand, so potentially looking to still chain into this, but this is 2 1-cost boosts and the 0 to 60 off of a single blue pitch. That is not going to be able to get you all the way to that big shot as well.
Yeah, I think it was I am not sure what he had in hand that he crowned away. I thought it was a Plasma Purifier, but now that I'm thinking about it, it might not have been.
Yeah, I saw it as well, and I couldn't exactly recall what that card was. It was a red card that it didn't look like it was a boost card to me, though. At least not a boost card that I was familiar with. Definitely some interesting choices from Matt Coles as far as the deck construction. A lot of dash cards that I'm not as accustomed to seeing in these boost dash deck lists as we do have. Just going to be those 2 boosts. Oh, yeah, actually, yeah, because it is just 2 boosts, not 3. We do still get that big shot for 8. That's right. I keep thinking of it as max V, but it is not max V. He didn't have to play all 3 of the boosts. Just 1 1-cost, 1 0-cost. Then you've got the Foundry Heart, and you can do all that off of 1 blue and maintain an arsenal. So, all right, that actually worked out quite well. And there's actually the max V in hand that we've been looking for and not yet been able to find. Actually on both sides, but on the side of Easton, there's 3 0-cost boosts. I don't remember what's in his arsenal. If this one of these is a blue 0 to 60 and he has another cheap boost card in arsenal, he could actually resolve max V here, and that should probably lock down the game with Matt Coles being only at 14.
Yeah, but, right. It was a throttle and arsenal.
That's right.
That's a really good arsenal card. We also saw Matt just arsenal a Pulse Wave Harpoon, which is also a pretty good arsenal card.
But this
life
is
totals are getting pretty low here.
Very scary max V turn to have it be throttle. So it's 2 0 to 60s. One of them was the blue pitch, throttle, and then you were able to just Foundry Heart into max V. So we're going to see some blocks coming out from Matt immediately. Oh, it was 2 0 to 60 reds. It was the perfect hand. 2 0 to 60 reds. You've got the throttle red from Arsenal, and then it's going to just be the max V. Oh, that is so much damage. 24 damage turn. There's a non-block in hand as well for Matt, so he can only cover 3 of this. He's going to be going down to 2, and there's pistol double induction chamber on the board for Easton. So he's just going to be able to continue to threaten lethal with pistol 3 times a turn.
Yeah, this is pretty crazy. And when you're at 9 life, looking at a max V, you've already taken most of your hand. So that was kind of scary.
Yeah, you know, we talk about Kadachi locks in Ninja, but it's the same thing when you look at Dash when she can get you down to 2 life if she's got these induction chambers set up. And now you start to look at your own induction chamber and think, okay, how many resources will I be able to save each turn? Do I need to cash in this adaptive plating and one of the induction chambers? And we will see that to try and keep a little bit more of a life buffer. You don't want to go all the way down to 2.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what we'll see here back from Matt, if he's going to use this Teklo as a pitch card to try and push some damage through. You do have the Pulse Wave Harpoon and Arsenal. Let's load the pistol, or if he's just going to play it out and try and stay alive and set up to gain back some tempo.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's the argument of playing it out. It gives you 4 pitch over 2 turns that you can still block with your hand and then still present damage back with that extra pitch. But on the flip side, on this turn, you can just still present, I think, 8 damage total. And maybe that's enough to make Easton actually have to think about more blocks. But he also still has 4 total armor block on the other side, 3 at once, and then an extra temper on the arms. So Easton having just extra fridge left over from that turn where he was able to play out the Evo Steel Soul controller.
Yeah, I was just thinking that the Evo is actually really good here. I know we were both a little interested to see how he would use it, but he drew that Evo really early, which is going to serve him well because it's got the 3 block battle worn. It's pretty good.
Yeah, especially because it just showed up at the time where he was like, oh, I've got an extra blue and 1 floating resource. Like, all right, that works. That's perfect for me here, you know? And that's always the struggle of it when you are playing more aggressive is like, when can you play with 4 pitch in order to play this out versus, you know, the slab dash where your deck is just so many blues anyway that you're just going to be able to find opportunities in the early stages. But now it's just about finding how much damage can you present. And blocking with a blue when you've got an extra blue in hand makes the most sense here. Just try and present as much as possible into Matt and not let him keep extra cards, as he is just going to try and pistol you down.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I also just realized I said that Evo was battle worn, but I do believe the Evos are
It is temper, yeah. But still, it is going to cover the same amount of block. It just will disappear at the end of it.
Getting to these low life totals too when you're playing Mechanologist is a little scary because you do have more no blocks in your deck than most decks would usually like to have because of all these items.
Yeah, it does make it very tough. You do have Easton just going to try and walk down this life total with the pistol. Has another blue pitch in hand. At least going to be able to fire the pistol 2 more times, and it's just going to be a yellow 0 to 60. So it's an incredibly blue heavy hand. This was 3 blues and a yellow 0 to 60, so not a lot of aggression available. Does make the blocks a little bit easier for Matt, but the pistol's still going to walk him down. There's not much you can do. 3 pistol shots, still going to be 6 damage. Intervals of 2. You are at 3 now, which is at least safe where you can tank 1 more pistol shot.
Yeah, it looks like we have another big shot in hand for Matt, which is interesting. But he's got a blue, a red throttle, and a big shot in hand.
Yeah, and that's not going to be able to be played out completely. So it looks like just throttle and then a pistol follow-up. Potentially just use the Tekla Foundry Heart to get an extra load as well onto one of the items. And then Arsenal Big Shot, but finding use out of your Arsenal is going to be very tough. Maybe Matt can block with 3 cards, keep a blue, and just play a 2 for 6 on one of the follow-up turns, which can still be some good value. But that's a high octane on the side of Easton Douglas, and that's going to be a lot of pressure that can potentially come through.
Yeah, I think that actually getting off the Big Shot's ability of the boost 2 when you're at 1 life could be a little tricky.
Probably not going to happen for Matt Coles. Now he has the option, do I actually want to even Arsenal this Big Shot, or do I want to load pistol? And we are just going to see pistol get loaded up, fired away, set Easton to 1 potentially here, and hope that he can get a chance to defend this upcoming turn. But I think at 1 HP, staring down a high octane, and what I believe is going to be blue expedite. I think that is the color that usually we see that card included into decks. It's going to be very, very difficult. Induction Chamber, though, a bit of a brick draw for Easton, right? That's just a red item that you're not going to be able to play. It's going to end up just being pitch.
Yeah, I think we're just going to go as many pistol shots as we can here, I would imagine.
Yep. Use the extra AP from the high octane. Use the extra resources from the Tekla core that you played earlier. And just try and pistol down Matt Coles. There's just 2 more blocking cards for Matt. Looks like the Tekla Foundry Heart already blocked 1 time, so the 1 block on there is not actually going to be relevant whatsoever. Here comes the shot. There's still 1 more induction chamber usage and that action point. Here comes that last pistol. And Easton going to be able to grab it over Matt. 1-to-1. The aggro matchup between the 2 dashes, and Easton going to be able to get it done.
Yep, that is just how it goes. Classic aggro. Really good game. I mean, I think we saw both players make really efficient use of their items that turn. And I think it was interesting, too, for the dash, to be a dash mirror, to see 2, honestly, kind of completely different dash builds for a dash mirror. That's not, I don't think that's something you see a lot. It was interesting. You saw the big shots. I've never played that card in a dash deck, but maybe it's something to consider.
Yeah, I saw it floating around a little bit when, Dromai has been kind of the big bad of the format for quite some time now. And so, dashes were looking for ways to play extra poppers. Like how can we, fit some more poppers in that feel like good cards? And I saw some big shots being played and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. But it's very interesting to see Matt Coles just kind of bringing that in anyway. Maybe he tested the card a bit and ended up liking it. And on the other side, right, Easton potentially kind of having more of that switchboard from playing the slab dash, having the evos, and that extra health ends up making a huge difference, right? At the end of that game, they're both at 1, and Easton had an extra, 6 health from the evo Steel Soul controller, so making a massive difference in the game. But that's going to be it for us here today on ArcLight League. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.